I was going to ask if you would still recommend like traditional teachers that want to transition online or have had to transition online because of the pandemic. I also started out as like a private teacher running around Rio de Janeiro trying to teach people, but pretty quickly moved online. And maybe 10 years ago, like it wasn't good money, but you could make money doing it.
Right.
I think nowadays it would be very, very difficult.
Yeah, it's hard. I think if you're really good, there will always be a market for you. So I think that's something that people have to really invest in themselves so that they stand out amongst the rest. I think if you're a very good teacher, there will never be a shortage of students for you in general. And you can charge more for your hourly rates because the students feel that it's worth their investment. But the competition is tougher and tougher and tougher every single year. And there's all these platforms where people pay next to nothing. And the price is driven way down. And with private teaching, what's hard is students are flaky sometimes, they cancel a lot and it's not, they could start and stop. So it's not like a secure source of income. But I personally think if you can do some type of like well-organized recorded content that you can either use as material for your students to study from while you're not teaching them, some way to not have to give up all your time over and over and over again, that's definitely very helpful. Like I buy online courses. I sell my online course. Like I find them to be really helpful, really, really helpful if they're done well. I think the hard part is figuring out how to do it because technology is something that is changing constantly. And I mean, I didn't know the first thing about recording or editing or, even building a social media presence. There's a lot that's involved in it and it doesn't happen quickly. So I think most people start out with this idea like, oh, I'm going to record these videos and in a month I'm going to have 1 million subscribers and 6 figures in my bank. And it doesn't work out that way. It's you got to learn how to do it and you have to do it in a way that's maybe different and ideally better than what the competition is doing. And that's tough. It's not easy.
It's not easy. I think something...
So I'd say...
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to... Whoever wants to know, like, oh, should I transition to the online world? I would ask yourself those questions, like, well, what can you do? Like, if you are watching other videos or seeing other courses and you feel like I can do this, but even better, then my answer would be yes, find a way. But if you're watching and you're trying to think of a way to copy what they're doing, or if you're going to like look at other people's videos and just regurgitate that same information in your own videos, then I would say no, because there's a lot of copies out there and the copies don't do very well. It's the original ones that do better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you pointed out that not only do you need to be passionate about it, but it's going to take a really long time. Like, I think we're getting really close to episode number 1000. Like, you're going to have to produce content for like 5 years, probably.
Yeah. And you have to be willing to do that. Like, yeah, it's a long-term commitment and consistency is everything. And so when we start out, we're like extremely excited, like all these ideas and motivation through the roof, like, yeah. And then it just takes a nosedive. And then it's like, oh, I have to, for me, it's my, producing content all the time. It's really exhausting sometimes. And sometimes I have great ideas and I'm super into it. And other times I'm just cranking it out because I know that's the commitment I made to myself and to the subscribers and the people that are on my channel. But you have to have a lot of consistency and discipline to keep it up and not this like up and down thing.
Yeah. And that's not like an innate capacity that all humans have. It's something you have to cultivate. Right. And that's something I noticed. I don't know if I saw this on your Instagram or in a video or something, but I noticed you mentioned like how important it is to enjoy the process.
Yes.
In this case, in the context of learning a new language. And if I'm not mistaken, you're also a fan of Stoicism. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm a fan of like everything that's like self-help, spiritual growth, self-awareness, emotional intelligence, like that to me, like if anyone's like, what books are you reading? I'm like, okay, here, I can show you like all the books I have here. So that's A Course in Miracles, Atomic Habits, like.
Oh, Atomic Habits was a solid
5-minute journal. Yeah. I mean, I've got like, to me, there's nothing more interesting than like learning about ourselves and the human mind and spirit and our own potential. But I know for some people that's like totally not interesting. So, but it's really helpful. I find it really helpful.
Yeah, me too. I mean, yeah. If you look at my Kindle, it's
everything
very hard on the self-help personal development section.
Yeah.
So maybe just to pivot a little bit, but hopefully this is not too strange of a segue. After I've been teaching for more than a decade now, I'm really beginning to believe that like what makes a successful student and what makes someone just kind of fall off after a couple months or a couple years, it has nothing to do with like the language or like the grammar or the tips. And it has a lot more to do with the psychology and the discipline and consistency. And that stuff is hard to teach. And I don't know what your opinions are about that. But I'm imagining like, should our English courses also come with like a course on like habit formation or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you, first of all. And I even try to tell people it all starts, in your mind. Throughout my course, I repeatedly remind people like what you believe is what you achieve. And we have to really be careful with our beliefs, and not only our beliefs, but like our habits, our thoughts, the words we use and everything. It's not just like, people want to know exactly how much time they have to invest in order to become fluent or to get the results they want. Yeah. I'm like, it is
the most common question I receive.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, there's no magical number of minutes or hours or months or years that's going to make you fluent. It's what you do with that time. You can have English playing in your house all day long, but if you're not paying any attention to it, it's a complete waste of time. Or if you're sitting in the classroom, but you're on your phone checking out Instagram, again, another waste of time. Or if you're studying for 5 minutes, but you're insanely focused and you're really interested in it, and then you take that and you review it and you apply it and you enjoy it, that is going to be a lot more beneficial than something else. But people have to really work on their mindset a lot and really visualize. Like, I'm a big believer in visualization. And I do this with myself with everything. Like in the morning, like as I lay in bed, like even before I get up and start doing things, I really try to just visualize myself. And it's not necessarily anything specific, but just in what I want, like be the light to other people, brighten people's days, productive, whatever it is that you're working on. I think that's so, so powerful. We have to see ourselves in our minds in a successful situation. And then things happen more naturally. Most people do the opposite. They imagine themselves, giving a presentation in English and going blank and everyone laughing at them, or they imagine themselves going into an interview and sweating profusely and not getting the job, or whatever it is. And that also has a negative effect on you. So I think, like you mentioned, the students that believe in themselves, they have enough self-confidence and self-esteem that the little frustrations, the little pitfalls that doesn't completely take them down, they just laugh it off. Okay, that's cool. They move on. It doesn't affect them like some other students. They also enjoy the process so much more, which is key. You're not going to enjoy it all the time. Like, that's unrealistic. You don't enjoy anything all the time. But I think if you enjoy it at least more than 50% of the time and you feel good about what you're doing, you're definitely more likely to succeed. But the mental component is huge. And as teachers, it is a lot, because sometimes people put 100% of the responsibility on the teacher, whereas the teacher has like maybe 30%, in my opinion, or possibly even less. Like the student is really the one who, even if the teacher creates the most magnificent course or book or whatever in the world, like the student is the person who's responsible for studying it, applying it, enjoying it, and practicing it. And we're kind of like guides. We give them the information, we hope and pray that they watch it, study it, practice it. We encourage them. We try to motivate them, but they have to understand, I get messages all the time. Oh, I'm so frustrated. I'm not motivated. I'm like, no one is motivated all the time. Don't give that so much power, like just do it. And I'm not motivated to do 99% of the stuff that I have to do. Like, who's motivated to wash the dishes? Like, no one. But you just do it without overthinking it. And then you feel better when you're done. But it is hard. It's so mental. It's so incredibly mental. And I think you're right. A lot of people don't give that the attention that it deserves.
Yeah. I think the idea of enjoying the process is immensely important, but it has to be understood like every minute is not going to be fun. Like a huge part of learning a language is quite boring, just like learning any new skill. But the process of, okay, at the end of the day, you studied, you are working towards a goal, that is enjoyable. Like that feels good somewhere deep in your soul.
Yes.
That's a hard thing to teach. Yeah.
Yeah. It's something that I don't think we necessarily teach, but when it happens, the students, and that's like with anything, like when something's really challenging, but you finally figure it out, it's so rewarding.
Absolutely.
And I think those are the moments that we have to remember.